Greetings, fellow detectives. Wizard Kitten here, bringing you a new build in my series, Building Nancy Drew in The Sims 4. Today's build is one that I am very excited to finally bring you because it has been requested by many people multiple times. This is going to be the first part of my build of Wickford Castle from the fourth mystery in the Nancy Drew series, Nancy Drew Treasure in the Royal Tower. There is a reason that it has taken me a while to get to Wickford Castle, and that is because Wickford Castle is huge. It is a massive, massive build. It is definitely intimidating to think about building, but you know, I had a day off today and I was like, let's do it. Let's try and build Wickford Castle. Like I said, this is going to be a two-part series. This first video is going to be the building process, so all of the architecture, the entire exterior, the roofing, the landscaping, and then putting in all of like the stairs and the wallpapers, the flooring, the doors. All of that stuff is going to be in this video. So you're really going to see Wickford Castle come to life from absolutely nothing, and you will hopefully see the blueprint of where all of the furniture will start to go, all of the rooms and hallways hopefully will start to look familiar to those of you that know and love the game. It was definitely a lot of fun for the build process for Wickford Castle. Again, because it is so massive, because it is such a labyrinth. I mean, we have all of these hallways that go nowhere, that end in all of these weird locations. We have floor plans that do not match up whatsoever. The first level of Wickford Castle is nothing like the second level of Wickford Castle, which is, I mean, common in the Nancy Drew games. It's very common for the floor plans to actually not be realistic and actually not be possible, or at least to have places that we don't see in the game. So like doors that go to nowhere and we have no idea what they're for, doors that if you look at the actual exterior of the build would probably just lead outside. So we would have a Haunting of Castle Malloy situation where Nancy would open a door and then just kind of walk off the ledge. I mean, that's kind of what it looks like. So I had to make a lot of choices with this floor plan regarding where I would actually put guest rooms and how big those guest rooms would be, and adding in places on like the first and second floors that maybe aren't there, or taking away doors that don't really have a purpose, don't really have a place that they could go. So I took quite a few creative liberties with this, but I'm still quite happy with how the floor plan turned out, because I do think it still very much gets across all of the places that Nancy can go in Wickford Castle. There are a couple places that she couldn't go in the game that I do add into this build, and you'll see those at some point. But all of the places that she is able to go, including like right here, we were working on Professor Hotchkiss's room and kind of the big tower where she can peep through the hole. Shall I peep? All of those locations are definitely included. So I kind of sketched out the floor plan in my notebook and then roughly brought it together in The Sims, and then started to kind of fill in all of the blank spaces or all of the extra spaces, and it ended up working out okay. I'm doing everything at night right now because I am building this in the snowy escape world, Mount Komorebi. So this lot already has snow on it, and it will always have snow on it because it is up right by the ski resort. So the whole thing had snow on it, and it was really difficult to see the grid during the day. So I am building this at night. I do apologize that it's kind of dark and a little bit weird. It does brighten up eventually, but I needed to do it this way so that I could see the grid and try to make sure that everything was symmetrical and the right size. I had to make sure that there were ceilings everywhere. Just so many little finicky things that it took to bring this build together. Definitely a massive endeavor. So since it is in Mount Komorebi, obviously I'm going to be using Snowy Escape for this build. Not necessarily build items, because the build style for the Snowy Escape expansion pack was definitely more Japanese inspired. Rather, the outside of this build is primarily university stuff, actually. I feel like with university stuff, we got a lot of really nice architectural styles kind of combined in that pack, which is kind of nice, like really old style buildings, but that still work really nicely for castles, which is good because that's what Wickford Castle is supposed to be. It is supposed to be a castle, and it's supposed to be kind of a mix of different styles, because the idea is that Ezra Wickford, the man who built this castle, really put it together with a bunch of different pieces of previous castles. So this very eccentric man kind of bought or ordered pieces of existing structures from France and had them shipped to Wisconsin, and then pieced them together like one giant puzzle to make Wickford Castle, which is why it ends in so many weird dead ends. It's why there's so many maze-like hallways and all of that. Very strange concept. I don't think that really happens in real life, but you know, we respect your creativity, Ezra Wickford. We'll go with it. And that made it so that I didn't necessarily have to stick to a very particular architectural style or build style. So really, in my mind, all I was trying to do was create a decent looking castle. And we do not see the entirety of the exterior of Wickford Castle during the entire game. We kind of get flashes of it. We'll see a picture of it here or there, but there's really no exterior that I was going off of other than those little flashes, which really just tell us that the exterior is covered in stone and kind of cobbled stones. They aren't neatly laid brick. They're kind of some of the stones are big, some of them are small, and they aren't all the same shape. So I was really going for that, and here is where we start to really get the university style going. I also used bricks from the Get Together expansion pack, so a lot of the Tudor style bricks, and I did get to use the stained glass windows from the Realm of Magic game pack as well. The Realm of Magic pack is one that I really wish I could use more because I love the stained glass windows, but they are so stylized that they end up being very difficult to use. However, we do know for a fact that Wickford Castle has stained glass windows in the towers, so I did actually get to use them on this build, and I think they actually worked on this build. I have really not gotten a chance to use them in a build where I felt like they really worked, but here I was like, yes, they finally work. They finally did it. I was very pleased with that. The name of the game with this build is Columns and Windows. There's so many columns and so many windows, and the lot is huge. So if you don't have a fairly powerful PC, mine is by no means the most powerful, but it is like fairly decent, the lot is going to move very slowly. It already was for me after I got in all the windows, all the doors, all the wallpaper, everything. It already was starting to move pretty slowly. But I mean, if you got a powerful PC, then Wickford Castle should run just fine. And I do think it would be really fun to stay at Wickford Castle to make this kind of a rental lot. And then your sim would have to be rich. Your sim would have to have so much money. But it would be fun to stay at this lot and then be able to actually just pop right on over to the ski resort because it's literally right next door. The onsen is right there, and then the hills are just outside, which is perfect. It's perfect for Wickford Castle because that's ultimately what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a ski resort. So very happy that we got a world where skiing and snowboarding is possible. I figured, and I mean, now or never when it comes to building Wickford Castle, we have a ski world, so I have no excuses anymore. It's time to get Wickford Castle done. The next really big one that I have to do still is Blackmore Manor. Yes, it is on the list. Trust me, I am planning to do Blackmore Manor, but just like Wickford Castle, it is one that I'm going to need a lot of time in order to accomplish. I'm going to need a lot of prep work in advance. It is not something that I can just whip out super easily in a day. These are big projects, so no worries. It is definitely on the list, but it might take a while. We're now moving on to some of the landscaping for the outside of Wickford Castle, and it was kind of difficult because the entire lot is covered with snow, so I really couldn't see very much of what the ground would actually look like in terms of landscaping. So I did the best that I could. I really focused on the front of the build and then on these little side gardens on the side. The front obviously is the space that you're going to see the most and is definitely where we want the most curb appeal for the castle. And then the little side gardens are supposed to be an homage to the little garden, the secret garden that Nancy can go to in the game, Ezra Wickford's kind of secret thinking spot that we learn about. So that's the point of those little gardens. Other than the front and the little gardens, I didn't really do any landscaping on this build. One, because I didn't really think it needed it. There is snow covering the whole ground, so a lot of the landscaping would just kind of be miscellaneous. There wouldn't really be any added benefit to having it there. It wouldn't make the lot look any better, in my opinion, and then it gives your Sims more space to do snow activities around the outside of the castle. I also just was kind of lazy, if I'm being honest, because this was already such a big project that it's like, do I really have to put bushes around the entirety of this castle? I don't think so. I think having these bushes in the front is sufficient. I think the rest of the castle looks just fine not being surrounded by bushes. If you disagree with me, please feel free to add bushes when I add this to the gallery. But I am working on adding in the decorations to the front of the garden. As I've been doing these builds and then just building in my free time more and more, I've developed more of a style with my landscaping, and kind of what I've come to understand is that the key to making a Sims build's landscaping look good is consistency and dimension. So I used to just kind of have straight landscaping where everything kind of was very symmetrical. There wasn't a whole lot of overlap. I didn't do multiple different kinds of flowers and stuff like that. But as I've grown and as I've watched other YouTubers, other Sims YouTubers like Simlissy, for example, is where I've really learned, I feel like, to landscape. The dimension is really important. So having different levels, different sizes, and having them overlap makes a huge difference. And especially the flowers around the outside of the landscaping to kind of give it some shape, that makes a huge difference as well and makes it look more natural. So I now try to do that with every single build that I do. I just like how it looks so much better. So that's what I did in the front, and now in these little gardens, I added fountains, I added statues and benches. There is a little chess table out here, and again, these are very much inspired by the secret gardens in the game itself. So that's what I tried to capture that vibe, at least with these little side gardens. There's one on each side of the build itself. That was a lot of fun. And I just love how all of the landscaping looks in the snow too. Just the frosted look is so beautiful. It is currently the middle of winter here in Minnesota. We do have a lot of snow, and we're currently in a cold front. For reference, today's high, the high temperature without wind chill, was -3 degrees Fahrenheit. So for those of you who go by Celsius, I looked it up for you. That's -19 Celsius. So again, that was our high without wind chill. With wind chill, it's closer to about -27 Fahrenheit. So yeah, very cold. I haven't been going outside, which is kind of a bummer because usually when it gets this cold in Minnesota, it's kind of unfair because we also have crystal clear blue skies on these kinds of cold days. So it looks gorgeous outside. We've got the blue skies, we've got the sun, we've got these icicles and the snow sparkling everywhere, but it's like, it's dangerous to go outside. It's dangerous to walk around. Even when you're totally bundled up, it is like generally recommended that you don't go outside when it's this cold, unless you need to or for very short periods of time. So as much as I would love to go, skiing or snowshoeing or go on a nice little walk or something, I think I'm gonna stay inside and I'm gonna play Sims. I think that's just what's gonna happen. And that's your Minnesota life in winter. That's what we do. Speaking of skiing and snowboarding, I'm curious how many of you all ski or snowboard. I learned how to ski when I was pretty young. I think I was like 7-ish, 7, 8, 6, somewhere in there. I learned how to ski in Utah, which in the States is a very mountainous area. Great place for skiing. It's wonderful. I have family out there, so we often went out there for Christmas, and I learned how to ski out there. I live in Minnesota, but the skiing in Minnesota is not crazily fantastic. I've mentioned this before, too. Like, I feel like whenever I talk about Treasure in the Royal Tower, it always cracks me up that Nancy decided to go on, like, a ski vacation to Wisconsin. Like, I still don't fully understand why Wickford Castle is randomly in Wisconsin. And I'm assuming it's because Ezra Wickford was a chocolate milk tycoon. Like, he was apparently the inventor of chocolate milk, according to this game. And, I mean, dairy is huge out here in the Midwest, particularly in Wisconsin. So I'm guessing that was the logic, but still, even still, it's kind of a weird idea. Not that you can't ski out here, because you absolutely can, but I don't know. It's always a little bit funny to me. But I'm curious how many of you ski or snowboard as well. I have never tried snowboarding. I do not know how well I could balance. Every time I stand up on a skateboard, or the one time that I stood up on a snowboard, I was like, why am I sideways? This feels wrong. This is just weird. Not okay. I'll stay facing straight, and then I'll careen down the hill when I face straight. I think that'll help a lot. We are now moving on to doing all of the architecture on the inside of Wickford Castle. In the game, the main entryway has the black and the white marble tiles, but then everything around it is brown or gold or beige. So I really was not liking how it looked. I decided to make an executive decision to change the marble to brown and white tiles instead, because it was just bothering me too much that there was too many different neutrals going on. Like, we literally had black, brown, silver, gold, beige, gray. We literally had it all. It just wasn't working for me. So I made an executive decision to switch to browns and more golds for the entryway. It still gets the idea across. It's still quite grand. I'm happy with it. I think it's okay. It's not black and white. It's not exact, but it was about as close as I could get without being very upset at the contrasting colors or the conflicting colors, in my opinion. Like I said, this part is just going to be the building of Wickford Castle, so we're not doing any furnishing in this part yet. We're laying out the floor plan, adding in all of the columns, the stairs, the wallpapers, basically getting everything ready to furnish. So you'll see where everything can hopefully go during this part. I think the biggest challenge with Wickford Castle and with big builds that I've had to do in the past is that we are severely limited in terms of architecture, interior architecture in The Sims 4. There's a fair amount of things that we can do on the exterior of the builds as far as adding different levels and different dimensions and stuff, but when you're walking through the hallways of Wickford Castle in the game, we can look up and we see these beautiful arched ceilings. We see these columns that are not necessarily attached to the walls. They're just kind of slightly off the wall. They add all of these beautiful curved kind of features, and we just can't do that in The Sims. It is a grid-based game. Curves do not exist. We cannot make circles and we cannot make domes. You can make a domed roof, but then you have nowhere to put it. Like, this is a weird thing in my opinion, that you can make a round roof and yet you have no round structure that you can put said roof on. So I did the best that I could to get the same message across with this build, in that I just put columns literally everywhere. They are all over the place. There's so many columns, and I think I've said that already, but I just have to reiterate. You cannot walk anywhere through Wickford Castle without seeing a column. And that's how it is in the game too, so at least it's accurate. At least it actually sort of looks like Wickford Castle in that way. I do wish I could have gotten it to look even more like Wickford Castle, but that would have required tools that we do not currently possess in The Sims 4 and that we probably won't ever possess. We also can't even color the ceilings, so yeah, the ceilings are just white. They're just plain white, which is a little bit unfortunate. I had a hard time finding a perfect wallpaper as well, and I ended up having to go with this Get Famous wallpaper because I feel like it was the closest match. And then I'm going off of the look in Nancy's bedroom in Wickford Castle, and she's got this dark brown carpet and kind of these old wallpapers. And I'll be honest, it's not my style. I would really rather not have these really like bold and at least in my opinion a little bit garish kind of wallpapers. I mean, the gold crown molding is a little bit much, especially with a brown carpet. Not hating on anyone if you do like this style, is just personally not mine. And I was forced to use it everywhere. Basically, all of the guest rooms, I decided to just go with the same style. If that's how Nancy's room looks, then it's probably how all of the other guest rooms look as well. The only other guest room that we do get to look at it is Professor Hotchkiss's, and the wallpaper that I chose didn't come in a yellow variant, which is the color that is in her room. So I went with the black wall with the yellow kind of, they're not decals, the yellow fleur-de-lises, is that what they're called? The yellow design on it. So kind of the same idea. Adding in some floor details, shifting around windows and columns. This is basically what I did for like 2 hours, was shift things around and try to get everything to come together nicely so that it looked okay, but it still looked like Wickford Castle as well. It still looked like a rendition of Wickford Castle in The Sims 4. Hopefully you guys think that I was successful. You'll have to let me know down in the comments below what you think about the build so far. Can you see Wickford Castle coming through? Are you getting the vibes? Are you getting Wickford Castle from our floor plan, our color schemes, everything that we're going for here? I'd be very curious to hear what you think, how it's coming along, and I hope you're excited for the build part as well. I figured a hour-long video would just be a bit much. Some of you would probably be fine with that, but it also would be a bit much just for me to put together. I only have so much time. Most of you know, but I do work full-time as a speech therapist at an elementary school, so I'm currently working. It is a school year, so I'm working full-time. So during the school year, YouTube is kind of my part-time thing. I feel like I should mention that too, because I have noticed that there have been a lot of new subs in the last couple of months, which is super exciting. If you are new here, thank you so much for subbing. Welcome to the channel. I hope you're enjoying it. This is basically my content. I do a lot of Nancy Drew and Sims content. Sometimes I do just Nancy Drew, sometimes I do just Sims, sometimes I do recreations in The Sims of Nancy Drew, and that's where we're at. And I love both Nancy Drew and The Sims so much, and I love that so many of you do as well. So thank you so much for enjoying the content, for interacting with me in the comments, for liking the videos. All of that just means so much, and I'm so glad to have our little community. Feel like I say that quite a bit, but I can never say it too many times. I'm just very, very grateful, and I really enjoy it. It means a lot that I can just kind of sit down and spend hours on this build and then share it with people, you know, and people who will actually understand what it is. Because I don't get to talk about Nancy Drew in real life with people. I don't get to share my love for these games in real life. So having this community where I can do that and be like, look, I made Wickford Castle in The Sims. And people will actually know kind of what a feat that is and how fun and exciting it is. That's pretty special. That's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. Now we are working on the first floor of Wickford Castle. One big omission that I had to leave out that I was kind of upset about is the elevator. We do have elevators in The Sims, but you can only place one on a lot. They aren't functional. We got them with the Sims 4 City Living, so as part of kind of like the apartment system, but when you use them in a build that's not part of the City Living apartments, they just don't work. They're just kind of more of a rabbit hole thing, and they don't serve a purpose. And again, you can only place one, so I couldn't have the elevator doors being on all 3 levels, and it kind of felt useless to me at that point, so I decided just to not do that. I decided to focus more on functionality for this actual build in The Sims, but the elevator is honestly one of my favorite parts of Treasure in the Royal Tower as a game. I love the elevator and how it works in the game. I think it's so cool. The whole storyline with it, all of it is just amazing. So I was bummed that I wasn't able to do that. I did have to change the library up slightly as well because I wasn't able to make it 2-story like it is in the game. At least not entirely. There's kind of a little cutout at the top of the library that is 2-story, and we'll probably see that in just a little bit here. So I got the vibe across there, the kind of idea that there's a 2-story section to the library, and I did expand it over into the kind of tower room, the hexagonal area. Here's me trying to get the elevator to work, by the way. So yeah, that was the change that I made with the library itself, and I also decided to put Ezra Wickford's room on the 1st floor, so it's not hidden up on the 2nd floor like it is in game. It's actually going to be down on the 1st floor, connected to the library. Getting the right shade of wallpaper for the library was also impossible. The library actually has this really rich foresty green kind of color, and we do not have a rich foresty green wallpaper in The Sims, weirdly enough. It's kind of funny. Every once in a while I'll find things that it's like, I feel like we really should have that, but we don't. Why do we not have more wallpaper colors? It's very strange to me. I really wanted to use the new Paranormal Stuff wallpaper too, but it just never had the colors that I needed, so I decided against it, but I love that wallpaper. It's so pretty. We are getting close to the end here. We're going to be coming up on the screenshots pretty soon, but right now just filling in the wallpapers and the flooring and the lights for the basement area. So because this is an actual basement, Nancy or your Sims wouldn't be able to access outside from the locker room like you actually can in game. I wanted this room to still be a basement because that's how it is in the game, and just the way to do the terrain would not have worked based on the floor plan, so I just decided to kind of leave it out. Again, a little bit disappointing, but we have to make these sacrifices once in a while in these recreations. They just have to happen. But we're making Jacques' little space here. There's going to be a kitchen down here. We'll fill in the ski area with tons of snowy escape stuff, and then the locker room. And it will all come in beautifully. But like I said, we are going to be coming up on the screenshots here very soon. Please let me know what you think about this build, and let me know if you are excited for the furnishing part that will be next week. I hope you are. I'm very excited to share it with you because, again, I've been meaning to do Wickford Castle for a very long time. It's been something that I've really wanted to share with you guys, and so I'm glad that it is finally time. I'm glad that it's finally here, and I hope that I did it justice for you. Anyway, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thank you so much for watching, fellow detectives. I will see you soon.